Arcane staff. Arcane. There's something here that it. YouTuber comedy. Arcane is the latest animated show from Netflix and has been making waves, not only within fantasy circles, but larger critical TV circles as a whole. This has actually become Netflix's highest rated original, period.
On IMDb.
I want to make that clear. It's just on IMDb, but that's still impressive, and that alone would make me watch it, but also, you know, it's my job to consume fantasy content. So I went into this before I knew of all the positive responses, and I had, very low expectations, because I heard it was based off of League of Legends, and there's a history of shows and movies inspired by stuff like that, so I was like, alright, it'll be okay at best. I was wrong. It's great. I do want to say I'm going into this review with a slightly different philosophy than a lot of my reviews before, where I'm trying to properly set expectations more than actually review the content, because this is so new and it's something I highly recommend. So I'm trying to just let you know that this is something that I think is really solidly executed while being a bit cliche. So stick around for the full thoughts. Now, this was just released, so I'm not going to get into like heavy plot details for episode 3, but the first 3 episodes are out, with the 4th dropping on the 13th, and I highly recommend you go ahead and check them on out. But I am going to go ahead and talk about initiating incidents and basic setup, because what we start with is a world split in 2. There is the above ground wealthy, run by academics and a very powerful government, who send their policing force to control the lower district below, filled with the unsavory types, but in reality there's just people down there who are struggling and trying their best. And in the surface world, our main character we're following is an academic who is trying to, again, without getting into spoilers, change the world in a very drastic, magical way, and he's meeting resistance, as you always do when you try to change the world. Below the world, we're following a gang of ruffians who are just trying to survive, honestly. And the initiating incident we have with them is they're pulling off a heist that ends up directly affecting the academic. They are not immediately clashing against each other, but basically the episodes are dealing with the ramifications of this heist and things spiraling from there. Now, that might sound a bit cliche, and it's about to sound even more so, because the street gang we're following has characters like V and Powder, who V is the leader of the gang and she's strong-willed and smart, and Powder's the smaller, more brainy type. Like, there's a lot of archetypes and cliches utilized to establish a very Dishonored-esque world, but that's not a very big criticism. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Relying on tried and true tropes of a genre, as long as you're handling them well or maybe taking them in new directions, is completely fine. And I found this show to, well, it didn't blow my mind narratively anyway, it did a tremendous job of utilizing these tropes to tell a deliciously compelling story. This is accomplished through many different avenues. Let's go ahead and break it down. First and foremost, most obviously to anyone with eyes, it's animated gorgeously. And this is coming from someone who was set up to not like this animation, because I really don't enjoy this kind of clay-looking approach to painting a world. But in honesty, it's just done so well that now I'm like, maybe I am a fan of it, because this was gorgeous, especially in the utilization of light to help establish atmosphere, from dark rooms to overly bright, dreamy landscapes of the surface world, and then like the corrupt government officials' offices we go in that are just lit differently, and then there's the underworld, which feels so toxic and gross. It's consistent and it's beautiful. I love that. And then we have the voice acting, which is top tier. I had no voice performance here in any way, shape, or form that felt out of place, or like the actor wasn't in the same room as the person they were talking to. It was just consistent and well realized. It's a low bar to hit, but I've watched some stuff recently that doesn't hit it. And then there's finally the writing. So the writing is not top tier sometimes, and that's because it is bogged down with a lot of cliches and certain lines of dialogue from various characters that just feel like this archetype is going to say this right now. There's one scene in particular with Vendor that really felt this way. And then like the beats some of the characters hits along these first 3 episodes, it's like, yeah, this character's going to do that, and probably end up somewhere over there. But interestingly enough, the way Arcane is handling the greater themes that are driving the narrative underneath with such tact and care, I'm still fully invested, because, well, let's talk about it. There is a villain here that I find myself going like, You're not wrong, but your means don't justify it. So I'm kind of like, yeah, no, yeah, but stop. I mean, yes, stop. no, don't do that, but keep doing that, like, less extreme. Like, I'm kind of really in that position, which is one of my favorite kind of villains to have. I mean, this show entirely avoids feeling like it's just purely aimed for child audiences and stuff, because it's not handling any of these issues as black and white. And it's showing how even within factions, there can be so many different gears layered upon each other, churning, that it's hard to find exactly where you're going to lay in the grander scheme of things. And so many are just caught up in the wayside of the flood of the wake, the crash of greater political plays. And combine that with an extremely clipping pace and a structure that just feels like it was a perfect math equation, and I don't have many large criticisms. Like, this show is just working. Now, it could tremendously go downhill. We only have the first 3 episodes, but speaking as someone who watches a lot of shows and consumes a lot of books, I'm not seeing many of the seedlings appear yet that indicate to me things are going to go downhill. Especially with how the 3rd episode plays out, avoiding spoilers, and this show showing me it's not really afraid to go to more extreme depictions of violence and things along those lines. I now feel tension at a greater level than I thought I would going into it. It's darker than I thought it would be, and I'm in. I'm often hesitant when I see there's going to be a child-led cast, because I'm like, all right, the show, oh no, it's going to go there. Okay, I feel danger now. Well done. I'm gonna go ahead and say I recommend to Arcane to any fantasy fan. It's being extraordinarily well received, and I agree with the consensus. This is a well put together, high effort project that's yielding really nice, fun results for fans. It feels like it was created by fantasy fans. On that grand spectrum of like totally being able to be immersed because the effort is put in all levels to realize a world of like the Lord of the Rings, to the way too sterilized, they just check the boxes, it doesn't feel immersive at all, like Cursed. This is far more in the Lord of the Rings side of things, and can even accomplish going a bit further due to the fact that it is so well animated. It's not constrained by some of the limitations live action has, even in the greatest live action adaptations of fantasy world. So for me as a fantasy fan, I'm feeling a rock solid 9 out of 10 for these first 3 episodes, and that is not meant to reflect a review of the season. But as someone who sees a lot of starting outs and initiating incidences and setting stakes, few shows in recent memory execute as well as this is done, especially if you're someone who's looking into how to structure the beginning of a story while building character and establishing a world. This should be a case study for you, because it does it fabulously. Granted, I don't think many of you are going to be writing scripts, more you're probably writing books, but still, there's a lot to take away. And now it's time to talk spoilers, so if you haven't seen these 3 episodes, get the F out. I'm done with you. Leave. You are valueless to me now, and I only want those who have bothered to watch Arcane already to be here, because we need to talk about the ending. 3, 2, 1, spoilers starting now. So we see Vender's dead in an alley. We have Vi sitting over him, like all the trauma, just so much trauma. The villain's getting away, and Powder shows up. Like, hey, I helped. My bombs were great there. Oh no. And V's reaction to this is one of the most emotional things I have witnessed in a while, because she blames Powder. She lashes out in anger and strikes this little girl in the face with blood. There's so much blood in this show, way more than I expected. And you watch Powder's heart break as she begs Vi, just the kind of pointless begging where you just want the situation to stop. The violence, the pain, the trauma actively crawling into your brain. And wow, not only does Vi not apologize, she walks away. And then we see the big bad boy. I kept wanting to call him Silicon in my head because his name's like Silco. I don't know. Fake titty man. Come up and approach Powder with knife drawn. And you're like, oh, this is going to get way darker. But no and yes, because Vi sees him approach and tries to go back, but is grabbed by the angry guard man and chloroformed and dragged off into an alley. And Powder is now folded in to the ranks of the villains, because he doesn't go for a kill and instead is like another apprentice who makes boomies. And that's, I thought this was going to be like a PG little romp when I started it, but there's child abuse and murder and explosions of friends accidentally killing friends. Wow. Don't play with bombs, kids. That's what we learned today. That's what you should take away. I did not expect to have this kind of a dark, traumatic ending, and seeing so many characters get brutalized that I did not predict are dying kind of makes up for how predictable the beginning of this show was for me, because we hit all of those beats and I was like, yeah, okay, these are the beats you hit. Oh, child death. Oh, they're all, he got a bar in his arm and blew up. And it's kind of funny that, like, this is one of the few shows I've seen recently where the kill count is mostly kids at the end. Like, it's the bodies of children that are piling up. My God. Well, late teen children and stuff, but still, Jesus. So like Stephen King wrote it. I just loved this ending. I was sold on the show, and then I became super sold on the show, because I don't know if we're about to get a time skip or not, and we're gonna have like a grown-up Powder who's obviously now gonna be called Jinx, because we had that line where V looks at her and is like, "You're a Jinx," so that's gonna be her name. Duh. If we're gonna get a time skip or pick right up after, I'm kind of hoping for a bit of a time skip. I want the ramifications of that night to sit in everybody and just manifest in these people's minds and just continue to raise the stakes. That's what I want. Anyway, those are my spoiler-filled thoughts. That final scene sold the show for me. I know there's more to talk about. The action, so much of it was well done, but I wanted to talk about that ending because I felt it in my feet, like all the way, top to bottom. It just hit me like a truck. God, I love this villain. Oh, I'm so set up for the next few episodes. I'm really excited to see them. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And boy, do I love this 3-episode at once starting release strategy. I hope it becomes the norm for streaming services, because it lets you do the binge, and then it lets the conversation continue on as fans speculate and discuss. Love that. Anyway, everyone, like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And have a good one, y'all. Peace. Give it a watch!